Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Legacy here. Today, we're exploring a pretty wild fanfic scenario. What if Naruto was Sung Jinwoo's successor? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you're always in the loop when a new one drops. Let's set a small goal, 55 likes on this video. I know we can hit it. Alright, let's get into it. Prologue. The Monarch's Legacy. The battlefield was silent now. Only ashes remained where armies once clashed, and the broken ground bore the scars of gods and monsters. In the heart of the ruins, a lone figure stood, a man dressed in black, eyes deeper than night. He was Sung Jinwoo, the Shadow Monarch, and this was his last stand. Jinwoo had fought for years, growing from a powerless hunter to the most powerful being in his world. He'd faced death, betrayal, even despair, but he had never given up. Yet now, even victory felt hollow. The power within him, the power to command the shadows, to raise the dead, was too great for any one person. He could feel it. The monarch's legacy would outlive him, whether he wanted it or not. A cold wind swept over the battlefield, carrying with it whispers from the void. Jinwoo closed his eyes. In the darkness, he saw countless worlds, universes spinning side by side, each one holding its own heroes and tragedies. He saw people who fought for what was right, just as he had. He saw children who suffered alone, dreaming of strength. One boy's loneliness echoed louder than the rest. Blue eyes, wild blonde hair, a face painted with a stubborn grin to hide the pain. An outcast, shunned by his village. A child who wanted nothing more than to be seen. Jinwoo smiled softly. "You're just like I was, aren't you?" He reached out, letting his will stretch across worlds, searching for that spark of hope. His power, heavy and eternal, needed a new bearer, someone who would use it not for revenge, but for something greater. Someone who could master the darkness without losing themselves to it. The shadows gathered, swirling around him. Jinwoo felt his strength fading, but he was not afraid. He offered his final words to the void. Find him. Guide him. Let him choose what kind of king he'll be. A shadowy crown lifted from Jinwoo's brow, dissolving into pure black light. Across worlds, through time and space, it traveled, seeking a lonely boy with an unbreakable will. Far away, in a hidden village wrapped in leaves, a child sat alone on a swing, his head bowed. The power found him. The legacy of the Shadow Monarch had just begun. End of prologue. Chapter 1. Shadows in the Leaf. Naruto Uzumaki didn't think he'd ever get used to being alone. No matter how many times he told himself it didn't matter, no matter how many pranks he pulled or how loud he got, the truth stayed the same. The villagers always looked at him with fear, anger, or worse, pity. Today was no different. The evening sun cast long shadows over Konoha's playground. Naruto sat on the same old swing, watching other kids laugh as their parents took them home. The swing's rusty chains creaked as he rocked back and forth. He tried not to look at the parents, but sometimes he couldn't help it. He just wanted someone to call his name, someone to smile at him the way they smiled at everyone else. A cold wind blew through the playground. Naruto shivered and pulled his thin jacket tighter around his body. Another night alone, he muttered, trying to sound tough. Who needs them, anyway? But his voice wavered. The loneliness felt heavier tonight. He was about to stand up and head home when something strange happened. The shadows at his feet seemed to flicker and twist, stretching out in impossible directions. A deep, echoing voice whispered in the back of his mind, "You have been chosen. Rise, Monarch." Naruto spun around. No one was there. His heart hammered in his chest. He tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was just his imagination. Maybe he was just tired. But then, a sharp pain cut through him like a knife. He clutched his head and dropped to his knees, gritting his teeth. The world blurred and spun, colors fading into black and white. The shadows writhed at the corners of his vision, alive and hungry. He heard the voice again, clearer this time. "Accept your destiny. Become the Shadow Monarch." A strange blue screen appeared in front of his eyes. Words written in a language he shouldn't have been able to read, but somehow he understood every letter. "You have inherited the power of the Shadow Monarch. Welcome, Successor. Would you like to accept?" Naruto stared at the words, frozen. He had no idea what a monarch was or why any of this was happening to him. But something deep inside, a spark of defiance, the same thing that kept him going every day, pushed him forward. He reached out with a trembling hand and touched the glowing word, "Accept." Suddenly, everything changed. The shadows around him surged upward, swirling like a storm. Naruto felt a rush of power flood his body, cold, ancient, and endless. For a moment, it scared him. For a moment, he thought he might drown in it. But then, just as quickly as it began, the feeling settled. The shadow shrank back, silent and obedient. The blue screen faded away. Naruto gasped for air, sweating and shaking. When he looked around, the world seemed sharper, the colors brighter, the night air full of possibilities. He didn't know what he just accepted. He didn't know what it meant to be a monarch. But for the first time in his life, he didn't feel completely alone. Somewhere deep inside, the shadows waited. And Naruto realized, whatever happened next, he would never be powerless again. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. The Systems Tutorial. Naruto staggered home in the dark, his mind racing. He couldn't stop thinking about what had happened at the playground. The voice, the pain, the strange blue words, it all felt like a weird dream. But when he closed his eyes, he could still feel that cold power pulsing inside him, like a heartbeat made of shadows. By the time he reached his tiny apartment, he was exhausted. He flopped down on his old mattress, pulling his blanket over his head, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind was too full of questions. What is a monarch? Why me? As he drifted into a restless sleep, the darkness in his room thickened. Suddenly, he felt himself falling, like his bed had disappeared beneath him. He tumbled through endless blackness, unable to scream or even move. Then, just as suddenly, he landed on solid ground. Naruto blinked. He was standing in a vast, shadowy hall. Stone pillars stretched up into nothingness, and torches burned with blue flames along the walls. Everything felt huge and empty, echoing with silence. A blue screen flashed in front of him. Tutorial. Welcome, Shadow Monarch Successor. Complete the following tasks to unlock your basic powers. Task 1. Defeat the Shadow Beasts. Task 2. Extract your first shadow. Naruto stared, wide-eyed. Was he dreaming? Or was this some kind of test? He clenched his fists, remembering all the times he'd been thrown into situations where no one cared if he succeeded or failed. Fine, he thought. If this is another trial, I'll just have to get through it. A growl echoed through the hall. From the darkness, 3 creatures crept out. They looked like wolves, but their bodies were made entirely of shifting shadows, eyes burning bright blue. Naruto's heart pounded, but he didn't run. The creatures circled him, snarling. He glanced around, searching for a weapon. Nothing. But as he focused, a strange sensation welled up inside him. The power he'd accepted earlier, it was waiting, ready to answer his call. He raised his hand and shouted, "Come on, then. I'm not afraid of you." The wolves lunged. Naruto dodged the first one, rolling to the side. He moved faster than he ever had before, his senses sharp, his muscles stronger. The second wolf slashed at him, but he ducked under its claws and kicked it in the jaw. The third wolf tackled him, knocking him to the ground. As it snarled in his face, something clicked inside him. He felt the shadows responding to his fear and determination. "Get off me," he yelled. The shadows around his body surged upward, wrapping around the wolf and flinging it away. Naruto scrambled to his feet, surprised at his own strength. He took a deep breath. "Okay, I can do this. I can fight." He faced the wolves, using his new power without even knowing how. The battle was quick and brutal. For every wound they gave him, the shadows healed him, patching up cuts and bruises as if they were nothing. The wolves fell, one by one, dissolving into black mist. A new message appeared. Task 1 complete. Task 2. Extract your first shadow. Naruto stared at the nearest wolf's body. It was fading away, but he somehow knew what to do. He knelt beside it and reached out, letting his hands sink into the darkness. "Rise," he whispered, not sure where the word came from. A chill shot up his arm. The wolf's body twitched, then melted into pure shadow. The darkness pooled at Naruto's feet, then reformed into the shape of the wolf, smaller, less menacing, but with the same glowing blue eyes. The shadow wolf sat at attention, waiting for his command. Naruto grinned, breathless. He'd never had a pet before. He'd never had anything that listened to him, that chose to stay by his side. "Hey there," he said softly. "Guess you're with me now, huh?" The wolf wagged its tail, shadows rippling through its form. A final message appeared. Tutorial complete. Basic Shadow Monarch powers unlocked. Good luck, Monarch. The hall began to fade, and Naruto felt himself pulled back through darkness, back toward his body. He awoke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright in bed. His room was quiet and empty, but at the foot of his bed, a pair of blue eyes shone from the darkness. Naruto smiled, hope flickering in his chest for the first time in a long while. He wasn't alone anymore. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Secrets in the Dark. The next morning, Naruto woke up with the kind of excitement he hadn't felt since he was a little kid. It wasn't just because he had a new power, though that was a big part of it, but because, for the first time ever, he didn't wake up alone. The little shadow wolf sat curled at the foot of his bed, head resting on its paws, blue eyes blinking up at him. Naruto grinned. "Morning, buddy," he whispered. He reached out hesitantly, not sure if the wolf would let him pet it. To his surprise, the shadow creature wagged its tail, nuzzling into his palm like any real dog would. Naruto let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Guess you're real after all. Or real enough." He tried a few things before breakfast, calling the wolf in and out of the shadows, willing it to change shape. The system in his head gave him little prompts when he tried something new, but most of the time, it was trial and error. The wolf could vanish into his shadow and reappear with a thought. He didn't have to say anything aloud, just wanted. He decided to call his new friend Kuro. School was different that day. Naruto couldn't stop grinning, and even the dirty looks from the villagers didn't hit as hard. He felt stronger somehow, braver. He even walked taller as he made his way to the academy. But he knew he had to keep Kuro and his new powers a secret. No one would understand. They might be scared, or worse, try to take it from him. He slipped into class just as Irika-sensei started attendance. Naruto kept his eyes forward and tried to act normal, even as Kuro's blue eyes watched quietly from the darkness beneath his desk. Irika called on Naruto for a question about chakra control. Naruto froze, realizing for the first time how different his power felt compared to everyone else's. He stammered through the answer, drawing snickers from the other kids and an exasperated sigh from Irika. Naruto clenched his fists. If only he could show them what he could really do. At lunch, Naruto sneaked out to the woods behind the academy. He let Kuro out, practicing making the wolf run, jump, and even disappear into the ground. It all felt so natural, almost like breathing. The more he used his powers, the more confident he became. But his joy didn't last. While practicing, he heard a twig snap behind him. Naruto spun around, heart pounding. In the distance, he caught a flash of silver hair. Kakashi Hitaki was watching. Naruto quickly willed Kuro to disappear, his palms sweating. Kakashi didn't approach. He just tilted his head, one eye studying Naruto in that lazy, unreadable way. Then he turned and vanished, leaving Naruto's heart racing. Later that day, the third Hokage called a meeting with Kakashi in his office. "He's changing," Kakashi said quietly. "His chakra signature's different. And I saw something unusual, like a shadow beast, but it vanished before I could get a closer look." Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, folded his hands, concern etched into his wrinkled face. "Keep an eye on Naruto. But don't let the others, especially Danzo, catch wind of this yet." Kakashi nodded. "Understood, Lord Hokage." That night, Naruto sat on the roof of his apartment, legs swinging over the edge, Kuro's head resting in his lap. He looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else in the world felt as strange and different as he did. Maybe being different wasn't so bad, he thought. Not if he could use his powers to finally prove he belonged. Somewhere in the darkness, shadows twisted with quiet anticipation, waiting for their monarch's next move. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. New Friends, New Shadows. Naruto arrived at the academy earlier than usual, a bundle of nerves and excitement twisting in his stomach. Today was the day they would announce the teams. Today, maybe, he'd finally have people to call friends. He sat at his desk, pretending not to notice the stares and whispers. Beneath his desk, Kuro's cool presence soothed his nerves, silent and loyal. The classroom filled up fast. Sasuke slid into his seat, aloof as ever. Sakura hurried in, glancing at Sasuke before fixing her eyes on Naruto, equal parts wary and curious. Irika-sensei read off the team assignments. When he reached Team 7, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto couldn't stop the grin that spread across his face. Even Sakura's groan and Sasuke's annoyed sigh couldn't dampen his mood. They didn't have long to celebrate or complain. Their sensei, Kakashi, was late, so late that Naruto's excitement slowly twisted into impatience. When Kakashi finally strolled in, a half-lidded and hands in his pockets, Naruto blurted, "You're late." Kakashi just shrugged, offering his signature lazy smile. "A black cat crossed my path on the way here." "Unlucky, huh?" Naruto snorted. If only Kakashi knew what real bad luck looked like. After some introductions, Kakashi led them outside for their first team exercise. "I want to see what you're all capable of," he said. "Let's start with some basic training. Spar with each other or practice your skills. Show me what you can do." Naruto's mind raced. Should he use his new powers? No, too risky. Instead, he stuck to the basics, throwing shuriken, running laps, trying to keep up with Sasuke and Sakura. But his hands kept tingling, itching to call on the shadows. During a break, Sasuke stood beside Naruto, watching him with narrowed eyes. "You're acting weird," he said, Not unkindly, just direct. Did something happen? Naruto bristled, caught off guard. No, just trying something new. Sasuke didn't press further, but Naruto saw the suspicion in his eyes. Later, as Sakura practiced her chakra control with a kunai, Naruto slipped away behind a tree, calling Kuro from his shadow. The little wolf materialized silently, tail wagging, eager for his attention. All right, let's see what else you can do, Naruto whispered, picturing Kuro growing larger, more threatening. To his amazement, the wolf stretched and swelled, taking on a sleeker, fiercer form, though not quite as big as the shadow wolves in his tutorial dream. Naruto grinned, heart pounding with possibility. He tried summoning another shadow from the deep darkness at his feet, focusing hard, but nothing happened. The system in his mind flashed a message: insufficient mana to create new shadow. Rest or defeat enemies to gain more. So that was a limit. He couldn't just make endless shadows, he needed something more. Strength, mana, or maybe real battles. A sudden noise made Naruto jump. He spun around to see Sakura peeking around the tree, eyes wide. She stared at Kuro, mouth open in shock. Naruto, what is that?" she stammered. Naruto panicked, trying to think of a lie, but Kuro, loyal to a fault, simply wagged his tail and vanished into the shadows, leaving Sakura blinking in disbelief. Just a trick," Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. "Nothing special." Sakura frowned, but said nothing more, deciding for now not to press the issue. At the end of the day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Kakashi gathered them for final instructions. "You three have potential," he said, his gaze lingering on Naruto for just a second longer. "But remember, real teamwork isn't about showing off. It's about trust. I'll be testing you soon." As they left, Naruto couldn't help but glance over his shoulder at his new teammates. He wondered if they'd ever truly trust him, or if the shadows would always keep him apart. But for now, he was part of a team. And deep in his heart, the shadows hummed with quiet pride. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5. The Bell Test. The next morning, Naruto woke before sunrise. He was too anxious to eat the milk and rice in his kitchen. Instead, he grabbed his goggles and headed to the training ground, Kuro padding along beside him in the dim dawn. By the time Sakura and Sasuke arrived, Naruto was already bouncing on his toes, nervous energy buzzing through him. Kakashi showed up, as usual, nearly an hour late. Naruto glared at him, but Kakashi only shrugged, one hand in his pocket, and said, "A little patience is good training." He held up two small bells, their metal surfaces catching the early light. "Your mission," he said, "is simple. Get these bells from me before noon. Anyone without a bell skips lunch and goes back to the academy." Naruto's stomach dropped. There were only two bells. That meant someone would fail. "Begin," Kakashi announced. The three genin scattered, diving for cover. Naruto ducked behind a bush, Kuro melting silently into the shadow at his side. Naruto grinned to himself. He doesn't know what I can do now. I might actually have a shot. He considered summoning Kuro outright to distract Kakashi, but he hesitated. He remembered Kakashi's sharp gaze the day before. If his sensei saw something strange, things could get dangerous. For now, Naruto would use his power only as a last resort. He lunged out, hurling a barrage of kunai at Kakashi, who dodged effortlessly, never even lifting his hands from his pockets. Sasuke tried to feint from the side, but Kakashi vanished, reappearing behind him with the casual ease of a ghost. Sakura hung back, observing, frustration clear on her face. Naruto charged, trying to keep Kakashi's attention. He ducked, rolled, and almost reached the bells, only for Kakashi to flick him away with a flick of two fingers. Naruto crashed into a tree, groaning. He closed his eyes for a second, focusing on his shadow. "Kuro, help me out." From the ground, a pair of blue eyes glimmered in the darkness beneath the tree. Kuro slipped silently behind Kakashi, weaving between the shadows. Naruto reached out with his new sense, feeling Kuro's movement as if it were his own, but Kakashi didn't miss a beat. He spun around, eyes narrowing, and, just for a moment, locked eyes with the Shadow Wolf. Kuro froze, caught in the open. Kakashi's gaze sharpened, but he only smiled, as if daring Naruto to keep trying. "Interesting," Kakashi murmured. "You've picked up some new tricks, Naruto." Naruto's face burned, but he gritted his teeth. "Maybe you should pay closer attention, then." Kakashi chuckled, amused by Naruto's spirit. He dropped a smoke bomb, filling the field with choking white clouds. Naruto regrouped with Sakura and Sasuke. They were all panting, bruised, and frustrated. Sasuke scowled. "We're getting nowhere. He's not even taking us seriously." Sakura wiped her forehead. "What are we supposed to do?" Naruto looked at his teammates, then at the bells. He thought about what Kakashi said, Real teamwork isn't about showing off. It's about trust. He took a deep breath. We need to work together. That's what he's testing. Sasuke hesitated, but nodded. Sakura's eyes widened in realization. The three of them launched their next attack together. Naruto sent Kuro darting through the shadows to distract Kakashi from below, while Sasuke and Sakura coordinated from above and the side. For the first time, Kakashi looked genuinely surprised. He dodged, blocked, and parried, but Naruto's Shadow Wolf forced him to split his attention. Sasuke almost grabbed a bell, but Kakashi slipped away at the last second. The test ended just as the noon bells echoed through Konoha. Kakashi called them back, face unreadable. "You broke the rules," he said quietly, "but you worked together. That's more important than following orders blindly." He tossed all three of them bento lunches. "You pass," Naruto gaped. "Wait, we all pass?" Kakashi nodded, eyes lingering on Naruto just a second longer. "Just remember, Naruto, some powers can be dangerous. Don't let them divide you from your friends." Naruto's throat tightened. He nodded, clutching his lunch. As the team ate together under the wide blue sky, Naruto realized something. Maybe, just maybe, the shadows wouldn't keep him alone after all. If he fought for his team and let them fight for him, they might find the light together. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6. Whispers from the Abyss. For the next week, Team 7's days were filled with training, odd jobs, and missions that barely felt like missions at all: catching cats, cleaning riverbanks, delivering groceries. Naruto grumbled, but at least he had company now, and every day his friendship with Sasuke and Sakura deepened, even if they didn't always show it. But beneath the normal routines, something was changing. It started with strange dreams. Every night, Naruto found himself walking through endless darkness, blue fire flickering in the distance. Whispers echoed all around him, voices he couldn't understand, speaking in a language that felt old and cold. Sometimes, he caught glimpses of faces, eyes like burning stars, a silhouette crowned with horns and power. He always woke up sweating, heart pounding, Kuro pressed protectively against his side. One morning, after another sleepless night, Naruto sat on the training ground while his teammates practiced throwing shuriken. His head ached. The world felt thinner, like something was pressing against it from the outside. System notification. A foreign presence is approaching this world. Threat level: unknown. Warning: the monarch's power may draw the attention of ancient enemies. Naruto blinked, rereading the words as they faded away. He tried to ignore the cold shiver that crept down his spine. He looked up and caught Kakashi watching him again, just for a second. Their eyes met, and Kakashi gave a tiny, reassuring nod, as if he knew something was wrong, even if he didn't know what. That night, Naruto found himself in the void again, but this time the darkness felt alive. Shadows twisted, writhing like a living sea. A single shape stepped forward from the gloom, a man, impossibly tall, with strange patterns swirling across his pale skin and horns curving from his head. His voice was a thunderclap in Naruto's mind. "So you're the one who inherited the monarch's crown." Pathetic. Naruto tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. The figure leaned closer, impossibly large. "Your world is weak. Your power is stolen. Soon, all will be as it should." Naruto glared back, heart racing. "I'm not afraid of you. I'll protect my friends, no matter what." The horn being only laughed, a sound that rattled the universe. "We shall see, little king." With a snap, the void collapsed, and Naruto shot upright in bed, gasping for air. The next day, Naruto tried to shrug off the dream. But as he walked through Konoha's bustling streets, the shadows felt deeper, the air colder. Even the villagers seemed more distant, like something was pulling everyone apart. He forced a grin when he met up with Sasuke and Sakura. "Did you guys have weird dreams last night?" Sasuke shrugged, unimpressed. "Just you, idiot." Sakura frowned. "Are you okay, Naruto? You look tired." Naruto hesitated, then smiled. Fake, but practiced. "Just stayed up too late. I'll be fine." But inside, he wondered if maybe this power came with a price he hadn't expected. The shadows, once comforting, now seemed to whisper warnings he couldn't quite understand. Far above Konoha, hidden by clouds and space, something ancient watched and waited. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7. Shadow of the Mist. It was supposed to be a simple escort mission. That's what the old bridge builder had said, anyway. Team 7 was to guard him as he returned to his home in the Land of Waves. But even as they left Konoha behind, Naruto felt the shadows growing restless, prickling at the edge of his senses like warning bells. The journey was quiet at first, too quiet. Kakashi kept a watchful eye on the road, while Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura flanked the client. Tazuna, each trying to act like a real ninja. But when they reached the river crossing, the world changed. A soft mist drifted over the water, thick and unnatural. Naruto's skin crawled, and even Kuro slunk close, ears flat. Kakashi signaled the team to halt. From the mist, two shapes flickered, tall, masked, moving with inhuman speed. In a blur, they attacked, chains whipping toward Dazuna. Sasuke and Sakura reacted instantly, but Naruto froze. For a split second, he felt the old fear of being helpless, of losing someone right in front of him. Then, instinct took over. Shadows erupted from beneath Naruto's feet, swirling around his body. With a shout, he thrust out his hand and Kuro lunged forward, intercepting one of the attackers. The chain passed harmlessly through the Shadow Wolf as it tore into the enemy's side. The battle was chaos. Sasuke parried the second attacker, while Sakura shielded Dazuna, but Kakashi was already moving, disabling the first assailant with a precise blow. Naruto, breathing hard, watched as his Shadow Wolf pinned the enemy to the ground, fangs bared. The mist thickened. From its depths, a low, mocking voice echoed, "Impressive. I haven't seen a jutsu like that before, brat." A new figure appeared, taller, wielding a massive blade nearly as long as he was tall. His headband bore a slash through the mist symbol. "Zabuza Momochi," Kakashi murmured, eyes narrowing. "The demon of the hidden mist." Zabuza grinned, white teeth flashing. "Let's see what tricks you and your little shadow have, boy." Naruto felt cold dread, but the system flickered in his mind. High-level enemy detected. Shadow extraction potential high. Caution. Mana reserves low. Naruto swallowed, heart thundering. He didn't know if he was strong enough, but he refused to let fear take over. The fight exploded. Zabuza's sword cut through water and earth, splitting the mist. Kakashi countered with swift, practiced movements, but even he struggled against Zabuza's raw power and brutal cunning. In the chaos, Naruto saw an opening. Sasuke was pinned, Sakura was desperately protecting Dazuna, and Kakashi was locked in battle. Naruto took a deep breath, called Kuro to his side, and stepped into the fray. He willed the shadows to move, to wrap around Zabuza's feet and slow him just enough for Kakashi to land a critical hit. Zabuza staggered, just for a moment, giving Sasuke time to escape. But Zabuza was relentless. He swung his sword at Naruto, forcing him to dodge backward. Naruto's eyes flashed as the system displayed a warning. Mana critical. Shadow at risk of dissolution. Kuro flickered, his form weakening, but Naruto gritted his teeth. "Stay with me," he whispered. "Just a little longer." In that desperate moment, Zabuza's sword struck, aiming for Naruto. But Kuro leapt into the blow, absorbing the attack as pure shadow, buying Naruto and his friends precious seconds. Kakashi, seeing the chance, unleashed his Sharingan for the first time. In a burst of speed, he subdued Zabuza, trapping him in a water prison. As the enemy fell, Naruto stumbled, exhausted. The mist began to clear, and Tazuna, trembling, stared at him in awe and fear. Even Sasuke looked at Naruto differently, surprised, maybe even impressed. Kakashi approached. "I serious. That was dangerous, Naruto. But you saved us all. Well done." Naruto nodded weakly, too tired to respond. Inside, the shadows pulsed, hungry but loyal, and Kuro returned to his side, battered but unbroken. For the first time, Naruto realized just how powerful and dangerous his new abilities could be. And in the fading mist, another pair of eyes watched, waiting for their own chance to strike. End of Chapter 7. Chapter 8. Konoha's Suspicion. News of Team 7's encounter with Zabuza Momochi spread through Konoha faster than wildfire. A Genin squad holding their own against a missing nin of Zabuza's level? That was impressive enough. But the rumors didn't stop there. Whispers followed Naruto everywhere as he returned to the village. Some said he'd fought alongside a wolf made of shadows. Others claimed he'd used forbidden jutsu or some ancient power that even the elders didn't recognize. Every story made Naruto feel more exposed and more alone. In the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat behind his desk, reading the official mission report. Kakashi stood at attention, his mask hiding any emotion, but his eyes were troubled. "Are you certain about what you saw?" the third Hokage asked, voice low. Kakashi nodded. "Naruto used something. I've never seen a technique like it, and it wasn't chakra-based. Whatever it is, it allowed him to summon and control a shadow beast. It helped us turn the tide." Hiruzen frowned, steepling his fingers. "And this power, do you believe it's dangerous?" Kakashi hesitated. "It's powerful, and Naruto doesn't fully understand it yet. But if anyone else gets their hands on it," the Hokage sighed. "Keep a close eye on him. Protect him from the shadows and from those within our own walls who might see him as a threat." Elsewhere, The Anbu and Danzo. Hidden in a candlelit chamber, Danzo Shimura read a separate, more secret report from one of his Anbu root operatives. His single eye narrowed. The boy's abilities are growing. If we don't act, he could become uncontrollable. Or worse, someone else's weapon. Danzo gave a curt nod. Prepare surveillance. If this power can be harnessed, it should be for Konoha. If not, take steps. Back with Naruto. Naruto could feel the eyes on him, more than usual. The NBU masks glimpsed on rooftops, villagers giving him an even wider berth. When he passed the academy, even Irika looked worried as he greeted him. Doing all right, Naruto? Irika asked, searching Naruto's face for any sign of trouble. Naruto shrugged, forcing a smile. I'm fine, Irika-sensei. Just tired from the mission. Irika nodded but didn't look convinced. That night, as Naruto walked home, he sensed someone tailing him. He ducked into an alley, pressed himself against the wall, and let the shadows melt around him. For the first time, he realized he could actually hide within the darkness, almost becoming invisible. The ANBU agent searching for him passed by, never even seeing the monarch's successor slip into the night. Kakashi and Irika meet. Later, Kakashi found Irika watching the moon from the academy rooftop. He landed beside him, silent as a shadow himself. You worried about Naruto? Irika asked quietly. Kakashi nodded. He saved us all. But powers like his, they attract attention. Not all of it good. Irika sighed, remembering a much younger Naruto, lonely, stubborn, always desperate for acknowledgement. He needs someone on his side. We have to make sure he's not alone in this. Kakashi glanced at the village, at the darkness settling over the rooftops. We'll protect him. No matter what. Naruto, alone with Kuro, back in his room, Naruto sat on his bed, knees hugged to his chest. Kuro lay curled beside him, a silent guardian. I'm not sure what's happening, Kuro, Naruto whispered, voice barely audible over the sound of the wind outside. But I can feel it. They're afraid of me. They think I'm some kind of monster. Kuro nuzzled his hand, blue eyes warm and loyal. Naruto closed his eyes, determination hardening his features. No matter what they think, I'll show them I'm not the enemy. I'll use this power to protect my friends, to protect Konoha, even if they never trust me. Outside, the shadows listened, growing deeper as the village slept, and as new threats quietly took shape in the dark. End of Chapter 8. Chapter 9, Monarch's Awakening. The days after Team 7's return from the Land of Waves were tense. Missions resumed, but the air in Konoha was thick with suspicion and rumors. Naruto tried to ignore the stares and whispers, focusing instead on his training and his friends. But even Sasuke and Sakura seemed wary, uncertain what to make of the darkness now following Naruto like a second shadow. He worked harder than ever, desperate to prove he was still the same person. But the power inside him grew stronger, pulsing restlessly just beneath his skin, whispering of limitless strength and endless hunger. The crisis. It was just past sunset when the first explosion rocked the village. Panic spread through the streets as rogue shinobi, bandits emboldened by whispers of Konoha's internal turmoil, stormed through the outer gates, attacking civilians and setting fire to homes. Naruto was on his way home from the academy when he heard the cries for help. Without thinking, he ran toward the chaos. Flames licked the rooftops. Shadows danced wildly across the streets. He found two ANBU already down, surrounded by masked intruders. Villagers were huddled behind broken walls, terrified. Naruto's heart hammered in his chest. He could feel the system's presence flickering to life. Crisis detected. Shadow Monarch power at risk of overflow. Caution. Prolonged use may result in loss of control. He didn't care. He couldn't. If he didn't act, people would die. Kuro, with me, he shouted. The Shadow Wolf leapt from his side, eyes blazing. Naruto willed the darkness to rise. This time, it answered, not just at his feet, but from every broken corner, every frightened place where light had fled. Shadows surged, twisting and forming into shapes 2, then 3, then 5 humanoid warriors with blue eyes and armor forged from pure darkness. They moved at his command, intercepting attackers, protecting the villagers, striking down enemies with terrifying speed. The rogue shinobi recoiled in fear. What is he? One of them screamed. Naruto barely heard them. The power surged higher, the world narrowing to shadow and need. Every blow he took, the shadows healed. Every enemy that fell, the darkness whispered, extract, grow, become. He almost lost himself, almost let go completely, letting the monarchs will consume him. But then he saw a little girl clinging to her mother, eyes wide with terror, not at the bandits, but at him, at what he'd become. Naruto froze. His shadow soldiers stopped moving, awaiting his command. For a moment, all was silent but for the crackling flames. Naruto took a shaky breath. I'm still me. I'm still Naruto. He willed the shadows back. The soldiers melted away, leaving only Kuro and a few broken attackers on the ground. Aftermath. The AMBU swept moments later, securing the area. Kakashi appeared at Naruto's side, concern and relief mingling in his visible eye. You saved them, Kakashi said quietly. But you lost yourself, didn't you? Naruto nodded, shame burning in his cheeks. It's getting harder to control. The more I use it, the more it tries to take over. Kakashi placed a steady hand on Naruto's shoulder. You're not alone, Naruto. You have friends. Let us help you carry it. The third Hokage arrived soon after, assessing the destruction and the stunned, grateful faces of the villagers. For a moment, even the old man looked uncertain, gazing at Naruto as if seeing him for the first time, not as a vessel, not as a threat, but as something entirely new. Nightfall. That night, Naruto sat on the roof, the village still and quiet beneath the stars. Kuro curled beside him, loyal as ever. Naruto looked at his hands, still trembling with aftershocks of the power. He wasn't sure if he was more afraid of the darkness within, or of what would happen if he didn't use it when it mattered most. But one thing was clear. The monarch's power was growing, and sooner or later, he would have to decide if he could truly control it, or if it would control him. Far away, beyond the village walls, a ripple passed through the world, an ancient thread awakening to the call of the monarch. End of Chapter 9. Chapter 10. The Chunin exams begin. The damage from the rogue shinobi attack was quickly repaired, but the scars on the village, and in Naruto's mind, remained. He'd saved lives, but people still whispered about the shadows that answered his call. Sasuke and Sakura tried to act normal, but Naruto felt the space between them growing, stretched by secrets he couldn't share. That tension only deepened when Kakashi summoned Team 7 to the Hokage's office. The Chunin exams are starting soon, Kakashi announced, his voice even but his gaze sharp. You three have been nominated. I want you to enter. Naruto's eyes widened in shock and excitement. Sasuke just smirked, confident as ever, while Sakura looked nervous but determined. But Hiruzen's gaze lingered on Naruto, grave and searching. These exams will be harder and more dangerous than any mission you've faced. They will test your strength, your resolve, and your heart. Are you ready, Naruto? Naruto swallowed hard, remembering the girl's terrified eyes during the attack. He clenched his fists, forcing a smile. I'm ready. I'll prove to everyone that I can protect the village. Written exam. Shadows under pressure. The academy's great hall buzzed with anticipation and nerves as Genin teams from all over the land of fire filed in for the first test. Naruto felt eyes on him everywhere. Some curious, some suspicious, a few fearful. The written test was a nightmare. Naruto's mind raced with anxiety. The words on the page seemed to swim in front of him, but the real challenge wasn't the questions, it was the pressure. He could feel the shadows stirring, feeding on his fear. He squeezed his hands into fists under the desk. Not now. Don't lose control. Not here. Sakura, sitting beside him, caught his eye. She offered a quick, reassuring smile. It steadied him just enough to focus. From across the room, Sasuke studied Naruto, his dark eyes unreadable. Was it worry, suspicion, or something else? Somewhere in the crowd, Gaara of the Sand sat in eerie stillness, his own monstrous power quietly humming beneath his skin. For a moment, his eyes met Naruto's. The killing intent was unmistakable and oddly familiar, like two predators sensing each other across a battlefield. Naruto looked away, shivering. Forest of death, tension, and temptation. After surviving the exam, Team 7 was sent to the Forest of Death for the next round. The air inside the gates was thick and suffocating, the trees blocking out most of the sunlight. Danger lurked everywhere, giant snakes, flesh-eating plants, and other Genin teams looking for easy targets. Naruto felt the monarch's power straining at its leash, hungry for challenge. The system flickered in the back of his mind. Shadow Monarch power reserves. Stable. Extraction opportunity. High. Warning. Use of power may draw attention from hostile entities. He gritted his teeth, determined not to give in. He fought alongside Sasuke and Sakura, relying on teamwork, stealth, and cunning. But every threat they faced, every enemy defeated, made the shadows inside him ache to be unleashed. Sasuke, sensing Naruto's struggle, confronted him late one night by their campfire. You're holding back. Why? We're a team. If you're in danger, we all are. Naruto looked away, unable to meet his friend's eyes. I'm just trying to control it. If I let go, I don't know what might happen. Sakura reached over, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. We trust you, Naruto. We're in this together. For a moment, the tension eased. The shadows receded, soothed by their words and their presence. The first true enemy. But as they pressed deeper into the forest, Naruto sensed something wrong, a presence, cold and ancient, lurking in the darkness. The shadows around him writhed, warning him of danger beyond anything he'd faced. From the trees, a tall figure with pale skin and golden eyes emerged, moving with unnatural grace. He smiled, and Naruto's blood turned to ice. Orochimaru, Kakashi had warned them. But seeing him in the flesh, Naruto realized that the monsters from his dreams were real, and they were hunting him. The monarch's power roared inside him, desperate to fight, desperate to protect. Naruto took a step forward, shadowy tendrils swirling at his feet. "I won't let you hurt my friends," he said, voice steady despite his fear. Orochimaru's smile widened, eyes flicking to the shadows. "How fascinating. You're not just a Jinchuriki, are you, Naruto? There's something else inside you, something ancient. I want to see it for myself." Naruto braced himself, the darkness ready to answer his call. The real test was only beginning. End of Chapter 10. Chapter 11. Ominous Visitors. The Forest of Death lived up to its name. The air was thick and damp, the silence broken only by the distant shrieks of unseen predators. Team 7 moved cautiously, nerves wound tight. The sense of being watched never left Naruto, not just by enemy Genin, but by something deeper, ancient and hungry. Then Orochimaru attacked. It happened in a blur. One moment, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were discussing strategy by their makeshift camp. The next, an impossibly long tongue whipped out of the shadows, striking like a serpent. Sasuke shoved Naruto aside, but Orochimaru was already among them, moving with inhuman speed. "Don't run," Orochimaru hissed, golden eyes gleaming. "I only want a taste of your potential." Sasuke and Sakura fought desperately, but Naruto felt the monarch's power boiling under his skin, demanding to be unleashed. He tried to hold back, afraid of what would happen if he lost control. But as Orochimaru's snake summoned another monstrous form and threatened to swallow Sakura whole, Naruto couldn't wait any longer. With a cry, he let the shadows spill forth. Kuro erupted from his side, snarling, joined by two new shadow warriors Naruto barely remembered summoning. They rushed Orochimaru together, striking from every direction. For a moment, even Orochimaru seemed impressed. Such a rare, delicious power. "You're not like the others, Naruto. What are you?" But as the shadows fought, something strange happened. The world twisted at the edges. Time seemed to slow, and Naruto was pulled inward into the depths of his mind. Visions from another world. Naruto found himself in a place that wasn't the forest. Instead, he stood on black marble, beneath a sky swirling with darkness and blue light. Ghostly figures surrounded him, faces half familiar, half strange. A tall man in black armor stepped forward. Sung Jinwoo, the original Shadow Monarch. "You're not alone in this fight," Jinwoo's voice echoed. "But you must not lose yourself to the shadows. You have to be stronger than I was." Another hunter, a woman with fierce eyes and a massive weapon, nodded. "Enemies beyond your world are coming. You have to be ready." Naruto opened his mouth to speak, but their forms blurred, melting away. "Remember, Monarch," Jinwoo's voice whispered as the vision faded. "Your army is your strength, but your heart is your shield." Back in the forest, Naruto snapped back to reality just as Orochimaru's hand closed around his throat. The villain's grip was cold and strong, his smile cruel. "You have more power than the demon fox, boy. You could be something great, or something monstrous." Naruto's eyes flashed blue-black. The shadow warriors surged forward, forcing Orochimaru to release him. "Stay away from my friends," Naruto yelled, forcing every ounce of will into his power. The darkness exploded outward, slamming into Orochimaru and sending him skidding back. For a heartbeat, the villain looked almost shocked. But then he laughed, a low, chilling sound. "Very well, Naruto Uzumaki. We'll meet again. I'm looking forward to seeing how you grow." With a flicker, Orochimaru vanished into the trees. Aftermath. Sasuke rushed to Naruto's side, eyes wide. "Are you okay?" Sakura hovered over them, shaking but safe. "Naruto, you saved us." Naruto nodded, breathing hard, shadows swirling faintly around him. For once, he wasn't ashamed of his power. He'd heard the warnings, seen the truth. He could be strong and himself if he remembered what mattered. But as the team regrouped and pressed deeper into the forest of death, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that they'd only survived the first true test. Far away, ancient eyes turned toward the leaf, and the real shadows began to move. End of Chapter 11. Chapter 12. Attack in the Forest of Death. Team 7 moved through the trees in tense silence, the memory of Orochimaru's attack lingering in the air like poison. Sasuke kept glancing at Naruto, as if searching for answers. Sakura stuck close, her eyes flicking from shadow to shadow. Naruto felt like he was carrying a storm inside his chest. The shadows whispered restlessly, eager for more. The vision of Sung Jinwoo and the hunters haunted him. He knew now, his power was a double-edged sword, and the more he used it, the more he felt it pulling at his soul. Night falls. By nightfall, Team 7 found a sheltered hollow and set up camp. Sakura checked their wounds with shaking hands. Sasuke volunteered for first watch, but his eyes never stopped flicking toward Naruto. Naruto tried to sleep, but the system pinged in his mind. Warning: enemy presence approaching. Multiple hostiles detected. Shadow Monarch power at 60%. Extraction possible. Naruto sat up, body tense. "We're not alone," he whispered. A heartbeat later, a trio of enemy Jinnin dropped from the trees, blades gleaming in the moonlight. A desperate fight. The ambush was swift and brutal. The enemy team fought with ruthless coordination, targeting Sakura first. Sasuke intercepted them, but they moved too fast, overwhelming him. Naruto sprang into action, shadows rising at his command. Kuro lunged from his side, biting down on one enemy's arm. Naruto called forth two shadow warriors, their blue eyes cold and merciless. But these Jinnin were skilled and desperate. One broke away, slashing at Naruto. The blade cut deep into his arm, but the shadows poured from the wound, repelling the attacker with unnatural force. Naruto's vision flickered. He felt himself slipping, the monarch's power roaring, eager to swallow everything. He knew if he gave in completely, he might not come back. But then he heard Sakura scream. Saw Sasuke knocked to the ground, blood on his cheek. He gritted his teeth. "No, not again. I won't let anyone get hurt." With a raw cry, Naruto forced his will over the shadows, commanding them to defend, not to destroy. The shadow warriors shifted, blocking the enemy attacks with their own bodies. Kuro swept Sakura out of harm's way, tail flicking protectively. Naruto drew the shadows back, using only enough power to subdue the enemy team, not to erase them. His heart thundered, sweat pouring down his face as he battled the hunger inside. The enemy Jinnin, terrified, surrendered and fled into the night. Aftermath. The forest was silent except for the ragged breathing of Team 7. Sasuke stared at Naruto, shock and gratitude in his eyes. Sakura, trembling, hugged Kuro, who nuzzled her comfortingly. "Thanks," Sasuke managed, voice tight. "You saved us." Naruto nodded, fighting to keep his power contained. "I almost lost control," he admitted softly. "It's getting harder." Sakura reached for his hand. "You didn't. You fought it. That means you can win. You're still you, Naruto." The words steadied him more than he expected. Dawn. As dawn broke over the forest, Team 7 regrouped and pressed on. Naruto felt exhausted, every muscle aching, but the shadows inside were quiet, respectful, almost. He realized he wasn't fighting alone. He had his friends, and maybe, with their help, he could master this darkness. But far above the trees, something watched, something not of this world, hungry for the power Naruto carried. The true storm had yet to come. End of Chapter 12. Chapter 13. The Kage's Dilemma. Smoke curled from Hiruzen Sarutobi's pipe as he stared at the stacks of reports on his desk. Word of Naruto's actions in the Forest of Death had reached him. Tales of darkness come alive, enemies fleeing from shadows, and Jinnin saved by power no one could explain. The lines in the Hokage's face deepened with worry. A soft knock sounded at the door. "Come in," Hiruzen said, already guessing who it was. Jiraiya entered, followed closely by Tsunade, both wearing expressions more suited to war councils than reunions. "Is it true?" Tsunade asked, not bothering with pleasantries. "Naruto's power? It's not just the fox anymore?" Hiruzen nodded. "Kakashi's confirmed it. And not just him, Ainbyu and several teams have witnessed things that defy our understanding. Even Danzo is stirring." Jiraiya grimaced, running a hand through his spiky hair. "Danzo's the last thing Naruto needs right now. If he sees Naruto as a weapon, we can't let that happen," Tsunade said, voice hard as stone. Hiruzen sighed. "But can we control it? What if Naruto loses himself to this darkness?" Jiraiya leaned forward. "Naruto's not like us. He's stubborn enough to wrestle the world if it gets in his way. But he needs guidance, people who will treat him like a person, not a bomb waiting to go off." Tsunade nodded. "If we turn our backs, we push him closer to that darkness. If we watch him like a criminal, we risk losing him and whatever hope he represents." Hiruzen closed his eyes, feeling every year of his age. "Then we support him. We teach him. We trust him. And if he falls, we catch him." Agreed. Jiraiya and Tsunade both nodded. For now, the will of fire would be Naruto's shield. Naruto's world. isolation grows. Back in the village, Naruto noticed the shift in the air. People talked less when he walked by, but their eyes lingered longer. He caught glimpses of A and B on rooftops, and sometimes, even his friends hesitated around him. After a training session, Sakura tried to reassure him, but her voice trembled. "It's just, you're different now, Naruto. Not in a bad way, just different." Sasuke said nothing, but he trained harder than ever, his own rivalry burning quietly. Kakashi was supportive, but always watching, always analyzing. The only one who treated him exactly the same was Kuro, whose loyalty never wavered. Naruto couldn't help but feel a cold loneliness creeping back in. He remembered the promise he'd made, to protect his friends and his home, no matter what. But now, he wondered if Konoha would ever truly accept him, or if the shadows inside would always set him apart. Danzo's shadow. Far from the Hokage's office, Danzo plotted in darkness. "He is an asset and a risk," he whispered to his rude operatives. "Monitor him. Find any weakness. If he cannot be controlled, we will remove the threat." His words hung in the air, cold and final. A flicker of hope. As the sun set over the village, Naruto sat on his rooftop with Kuro at his side. He watched the lights flicker on in distant windows and wondered where he fit in all of it. But when he looked at the horizon, he saw something new, a faint, blue shimmer, as if the night itself was watching over him. He wasn't alone. He never would be. And that, for now, was enough. End of Chapter 13. Chapter 14. Bonds tested. Tension clung to Team 7 like a second skin. The aftermath of the Forest of Death lingered even as the Chunin exams pressed on. Konoha's arena buzzed with excitement, but beneath it all, doubt and anxiety simmered. Naruto felt the weight of every stare competitors, teachers, even strangers who'd only heard rumors about the boy with the Shadow Army. His powers made him different, and difference, he'd learned, could be isolating. Sasuke trained harder than ever, throwing himself into every match, every spar. He barely spoke to Naruto, not out of anger, but uncertainty. He'd seen the darkness Naruto wielded, seen the way it obeyed and resisted him at once. Sakura, meanwhile, hovered in between. She wanted to believe in Naruto, to stand by his side as she always had, but she'd never felt power like his before. Sometimes, she woke at night remembering how the shadows had moved, alive and cold. The confrontation. It finally boiled over on the evening before the next stage of the exams. Team 7 gathered for dinner, but conversation quickly soured. Sasuke set his chopsticks down, voice low. "Naruto, are you going to tell us what's really going on? Or are we supposed to just guess?" Naruto stiffened, his shadow flickering unconsciously across the wall. "I'm trying, Sasuke, but I don't really understand it myself." Sakura looked between them, worry and frustration in her eyes. "We're a team, Naruto. If something's wrong, you can trust us, right?" Naruto opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat. He wanted to trust them, to let them in. But he feared what they'd see, or what he might become if he slipped. "It's not that simple," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes, it feels like the shadows are thinking for me. I'm scared I'll hurt someone." Sasuke's eyes hardened. "If you can't control it, you need help. We all have demons to face, Naruto. But if you shut us out, you're already lost." For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the wind outside. Finally, Sakura reached for Naruto's hand. "We don't want to lose you. Whatever happens, we're in this together. Promise." Naruto looked at his friends, Sasuke, fierce and loyal in his own way, Sakura, caring and brave. He nodded, voice thick with emotion. "Promise. I'll fight it, with you." A test of trust. The next day, as the preliminary matches began, Team 7 faced new challenges. When Naruto stepped into the arena, his shadow flickered underfoot, but this time, he didn't fight it alone. He met Sasuke's eyes across the ring. For the first time in days, Sasuke nodded, not in challenge, but in understanding. When Sakura cheered for him, Naruto felt the darkness recede, just a little. He drew on their strength as much as his own. Each match was brutal, but Naruto's control sharpened with each test. He learned to call forth the shadows without letting them consume him. And when the crowd gasped at his feats, he stood a little taller. But he also noticed something else. Across the arena, Gaara watched him, hunger in his eyes. The two Jinchuriki, each haunted by monsters, one sand, one shadow, were drawn to each other like magnets. Naruto knew the next battles would test not just his strength, but the bonds he'd worked so hard to forge. Nightfall, a quiet resolve. That night, Team 7 gathered on a rooftop, the village sprawled beneath them. No one spoke at first, but the silence was peaceful. Finally, Sasuke broke it. "Don't let the darkness win, Dobe." Sakura laughed, and Naruto grinned. For the first time in a long while, he felt lighter, as if sharing the burden truly made it easier to carry. Whatever came next, they would face it as a team. But far beyond Konoha, a new storm gathered, one that would demand every ounce of trust, power, and hope they had left. End of Chapter 14. Chapter 15. Shadows vs. Sand. The stadium overflowed with cheers and anticipation. Villagers, shinobi, and dignitaries from far-off lands filled the stands, waiting to witness the new generation's might. Under the sunlight, everything seemed normal until the shadows stretched a little too long and the wind carried a strange tension. Naruto waited in the corridor, heart pounding. He could feel the monarch's power restless beneath his skin, swirling with nerves and anticipation. Kuro waited at his side, silent as a true shadow. Across the field, Gaara stood motionless, his eyes locked on Naruto's. There was no malice in his gaze, just hunger to prove something, hunger to be seen. The proctor called their names. The match began. Naruto versus Gaara. The first blows were fast and furious, sand clashing with shadow. Gaara attacked relentlessly, his sand shielding him from every angle, his attacks crushing and merciless. Naruto dodged, countered, and let the shadows rise from his feet, forming shields and spears of darkness. The crowd gasped as Naruto's powers became visible for the first time. Murmurs rippled through the stands. What is that? Is that a summoning jutsu? No, it's something else, something darker. Naruto heard none of it. He was lost in the fight. Gaara's sand wrapped around Naruto, trying to crush him. The monarch's power erupted. Kuro and 3 shadow warriors pulled Naruto free, their blue eyes blazing as they fought back. The stadium filled with gasps and fearful shouts. Above, the first notes of chaos sounded. A genjutsu swept the stands, and enemy ninja began pouring in from every direction. The invasion had begun. Invasion, Konoha's nightmare. Explosions shook the stadium. Sand and sound ninja flooded the arena, attacking shinobi and civilians alike. Naruto watched as his friends and teachers leapt to defend the village. For a moment, he hesitated, torn between finishing the fight with Gaara and protecting Konoha. But Gaara had already vanished into the chaos, driven by his own madness and the demon within. Naruto. Sakura's scream cut through the noise. She was trapped by Sand Shinobi, Sasuke fighting desperately beside her. Naruto's decision was instant. He called the shadows, and they answered, not just a handful, but an army. Kuro led the charge, flanked by half a dozen warriors forged of pure darkness. The people of Konoha, enemies and allies alike, stared in awe and terror as Naruto's shadow army swept through the invaders, pushing them back, saving lives. But every time Naruto struck down an enemy, the power whispered to extract, grow stronger, become more. He fought that urge, extracting only when he had to, determined not to lose himself. The clash of monsters. In the heart of the chaos, Naruto caught up with Gaara. The red-haired Jinchuriki was transforming, Shikaku's sand twisting into monstrous forms. You and I, Gaara's voice echoed, warped by the demon. We're the same. Alone. Hated. Monsters. Naruto shook his head, stepping forward even as the sand roared. We don't have to be monsters, Gaara. We can choose something else, Gaara screamed, sending a tidal wave of sand at Naruto. The monarch's power flared. Naruto's shadows surged to meet it, colliding in a storm of black and gold. Konoha's destruction loomed, 2 ancient powers unleashed in the heart of the village. Sasuke and Sakura watched in disbelief as Naruto stood against Gaara, not just with raw power, but with stubborn hope. You're not alone, Naruto shouted, voice ringing clear above the battle. Not anymore. Aftermath. The Sand Sound Alliance was driven back, thanks in no small part to Naruto's shadow army. But the village had seen everything. Whispers spread through the smoke. Was Naruto the savior, or something to fear? As Gaara retreated, defeated but alive, Naruto collapsed to his knees, exhausted. Kuro and his shadows gathered around him, silent witnesses to both his strength and his burden. The invasion had changed everything. Now, all of Konoha and the world knew of the Shadow Monarch's successor. And far beyond the village, an ancient power watched, waiting for its chance to descend. End of Chapter 15. Chapter 16. Shirbai descends. Konoha smoldered beneath a blood-red sunset. The invasion was over, but the village's wounds ran deep, shattered walls, broken families, and whispers that would never truly die. Naruto's shadow army had saved countless lives, but his power, now revealed, filled as many hearts with fear as it did with hope. As the villagers rebuilt, the Kage from every great nation gathered in the Hokage's office. The air was tense, every word laced with questions about Naruto, the invasion, and the future of shinobi. He's more than a Jinchuriki now, Tsunade said, her voice steady but uncertain. "What are we supposed to do if we can't even understand what he's become?" The Kazekage, Gaara, still haunted from his battle, spoke quietly. "He tried to save me. He didn't lose himself to the power, even when he could have." The third Hokage nodded. "We must trust him. We have no other choice." But even as they spoke, the sky outside began to warp. A rift in the sky. It started as a ripple, a shimmer that spread across the sunset, darkening the horizon. Every shinobi in Konoha felt it. An overwhelming pressure, a weight that crushed hope and filled the air with dread. Above the village, the clouds split. From the rift, a figure descended, tall, robed in pale white, eyes like burning galaxies. Horns curled from his brow, and every step he took echoed through the world's fabric. Otsutsuki Shirbai had arrived. He hovered above Konoha, looking down at the city like an insect under glass. The entire world seemed to freeze, birds silent, wind stilled, even the shadows on the ground recoiling in fear. Naruto felt the monarch's power surge and tremble. The system flared in his mind. Critical threat detected. Entity, Otsutsuki Shirbai. Power exceeds all known levels. Warning. Shadow Monarch power may not be sufficient. Naruto stood at the heart of the ruined stadium, Kuro and his shadow army at his side. His friends gathered behind him. Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, Gaara, and more. The Kage joined him, grim-faced, united against a threat none of them could have prepared for. Shirbai's voice thundered in every mind. "This world is built on borrowed power. I have come to reclaim what is mine and judge the one who dares to wear the monarch's crown." Naruto's hands trembled, but he stepped forward, defiant. "If you want this world, you'll have to go through me. Through all of us." Shirbai smiled. "A cold, cosmic thing. So be it, little king." The battle begins. With a gesture, Shirbai unleashed a wave of force that shattered the stadium's remains, sending ninja and civilians flying. The Kage struck together. Fire, sand, stone, lightning, water, but Shirbai's power shrugged them aside like dust. Naruto summoned his shadows, each one struggling to stand against the crushing might of a god. Kuro lunged, howling, but was battered away, reforming with difficulty. Sasuke and Sakura fought by Naruto's side, refusing to run. Even Gaara, battered and bloodied, sent waves of sand to shield his allies. But it was clear, nothing they did could truly harm Shirbai. He was not a beast or a man, but something beyond, something eternal. The world itself seemed to cry out as Shirbai prepared his next attack, a surge of energy that threatened to erase Konoha from existence. Naruto's choice. Time slowed. The monarch's system flickered in Naruto's mind, offering one desperate option. Emergency protocol, Shadow Monarch Ascension. Warning, full ascension risks total loss of self. Accept. Naruto looked at his friends, his home, his world. He took a trembling breath, and for the first time, he reached out, not just to the shadows, but to the light within himself. To the bonds he'd forged, the promises he'd made. He pressed, accept. A torrent of power surged through him, shadows and light, hope and fear entwined. He rose above the ruins, his army growing behind him, his eyes shining with a new kind of determination. Facing Shirbai, Naruto called out, his voice echoing through every corner of the battered village. "We're not afraid of you. I'm not alone, and neither is this world." The final battle had begun. End of Chapter 16. Chapter 17. The Monarch's Army. The world seemed to hold its breath. The skies above Konoha churned with unnatural storms, lightning crackling around the figure of Otsutsuki Shirbai as he gazed down with cosmic contempt. Across the ruined stadium, shinobi of every nation gathered, Kage, Genin, Anbyu, all united by desperation. At the center of it all stood Naruto Uzumaki, transformed. His hair whipped in the wind. His eyes glowed with the blue-black fire of the monarch. Shadows writhed around him, dozens strong and multiplying by the heartbeat. The weight of his new power threatened to crush him, but the faces of his friends, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, Gaara, and so many more, gave him strength. The system echoed in his mind, its voice almost gentle. Shadow Monarch Ascension complete. All restrictions lifted. Army command capacity, unlimited. Legendary extraction, available. Naruto understood now. This was more than summoning shadows. It was about leading them, carrying hope through the darkness, raising the legendary shadows. Naruto lifted a trembling hand, reaching deep into the ground, deeper, even, than the land of the living. "Rise," he commanded. Across the battlefield, the earth split, and from the depths emerged legendary shinobi who had fallen in Konoha's defense. Spectral figures took shape, their forms forged from pure shadows. Abusa, Haku, Asuma, and even the towering shape of the third Hokage, Sarutobi, in spectral armor. The crowd gasped. Some wept. These were the heroes of old, restored as shadows, not puppets, but loyal to Naruto's will and the cause of their home. Sasuke stepped beside him, sharing a look of grim respect. Let's finish this, dope. Sakura placed her hand on Naruto's arm, her chakra fueling the shadows, her trust steady. You're not alone, Naruto. We're with you, always. The Kage and shinobi leaders gathered, their armies forming a wall of determination. For the first time, the world's greatest powers stood united, not for conquest, but for survival. The battle for the world. Shirbai unleashed devastation, spheres of annihilation, gravity itself twisted into weapons. Shadow and sand, fire and lightning, water and stone, all clashed in a cataclysmic storm. Naruto led his army, the legendary shadows at the front. Zabuza's sword cleaved through energy blasts. Haku's ice shielded shinobi from certain death. Sarutobi rallied the living and the dead alike. Kuro, now a giant wolf of night, tore through celestial minions conjured by Shirbai's will. Every time a comrade fell, Naruto drew from the monarch's power to extract their shadow, adding them to the ranks, never letting a friend's sacrifice go in vain. Shinobi from every village fought side by side. Old rivals set aside grudges, trusting Naruto's command. But Shirbai was endless, a god, not bound by mortal rules. He struck down even the strongest, corrupting shadows with raw force. Naruto felt the darkness threaten to engulf him, the monarch's voice tempting him to sacrifice his heart for power. But he clung to his bonds. I am Naruto Uzumaki. I am not just a monarch. I am a friend, a son, a brother to this world. Sasuke, bleeding but unbroken, joined Naruto, their powers combining Sharingan, Rinnegan, and shadows. Sakura, exhausted but fierce, poured healing and hope into the army. Gaara shielded the wounded. Kakashi fought at Naruto's side, every jutsu a promise. The world teetered on the brink. Light and shadow, hope and despair, collided in a battle that would decide the fate of everything. Shirbai's wrath. With a roar, Shirbai summoned a storm that blotted out the sky, intending to erase all resistance in a single, godly blow. The shadows began to waver. The system rang in Naruto's mind, cold and urgent. Warning: monarch at risk of dissolution. Bonds critical. Choose power or heart. Naruto gritted his teeth, looking at the faces around him, friends, allies, even the resurrected legends who trusted him. He made his choice. I am not your puppet, Shirbai. These shadows aren't just my power, they're my family. We are the will of this world. The army surged forward, fueled by every memory, every promise, every drop of courage left in humankind. And the final battle, for life, hope, and the future, began in earnest. End of Chapter 17. Chapter 18. Battle for the world. The sky was swallowed by darkness, a swirling tempest of cosmic energy and storm. Otsutsuki Shirbai loomed over Konoha, his power distorting the very fabric of reality. Below, the world's last defenders stood shoulder to shoulder, led by Naruto and the monarch's army. All across the battered battlefield, shinobi gave everything they had. Lightning ripped the air. Sand became steel. Fire met celestial force. For every fallen comrade, Naruto's shadow power raised a new ally, each shadow a testament to sacrifice and will. But even with all their strength, Shirbai was relentless. He swept aside armies with a thought, space itself warping at his fingertips. The ultimate test. Naruto soared into the sky, meeting Shirbai head-on, his cloak of shadows flickering around him. Sasuke and Sakura launched attacks from below, supporting him with every ounce of chakra and courage they had left. The resurrected shadows, Sarutobi, Zabuza, Haku, and more, fought at their sides, tireless and fearless. Shirbai's eyes glimmered with ancient scorn. You cannot win, little king. All power, all life, belongs to me. Naruto's vision blurred with exhaustion, but he forced himself to remember every friend behind him, every promise, every pain. We fight for more than power, Naruto shouted, his voice echoing through the chaos. We fight for each other. With a mighty gesture, he called every shadow living, fallen, every ounce of courage and love the world had left, and hurled them at Shirbai in a tidal wave of black and blue flame. Shirbai staggered, but even that was not enough. The price of power. Shirbai unleashed his true might. Space fractured. Time seemed to freeze. He struck Naruto with a force that threatened to shatter his soul. Naruto fell, darkness closing in. He felt the monarch's system trying to take over, pushing him to sacrifice everything for a chance at victory. Warning: monarchs will at maximum. Humanity at risk. No, Naruto thought, fighting the surge. I can't lose myself. Not now. Not ever. Suddenly, hands caught him. Sasuke's, rough and steady. Sakura's, warm and trembling. You're not alone, Naruto. Sakura cried, tears streaming down her face. Don't give in. We're here. Sasuke nodded, blood running from a cut above his eye, but his grip unbreakable. Bonds are stronger than power. Dope. Don't forget that. The world seemed to slow. Naruto felt his friends' hearts beating with his, felt the faith of every soul fighting behind him. He remembered Jinwoo's words. Your heart is your shield. The final stand. Naruto rose, light and shadow blending in his eyes. He looked up at Shirbai defiant. You're wrong. Power alone is nothing without someone to protect. Drawing on his last reserves, and the hope of everyone who believed in him, Naruto summoned a final surge of power. But this time, he guided the shadows with compassion, not rage. Each shadow became a memory, a bond, a promise made real. Kuro, now towering and majestic, led the army in a final charge. The resurrected heroes fought at Naruto's side, and every shinobi on the field lent their will. The world pulsed with energy, not just the monarch's darkness, but the unified light of human resolve. Shirbai howled, his cosmic power fracturing as the army crashed into him. For the first time, he faltered. Hope rekindled. As the clash reached its peak, Naruto made one last choice. He refused to let the monarch's will erase his humanity. Instead, he drew it all into himself, containing the shadows with a heart full of hope and love. A shockwave of energy tore through the sky, light piercing the blackness. Shirbai shrieked, his form dissolving into scattered stardust, banished by the power of connection and courage. The storm broke. The darkness faded. For the first time in memory, the world was still. Aftermath. Naruto collapsed, barely conscious, but the voices of his friends, his people, carried him back to the light. The battle for the world was over, but the cost and the legacy remained. End of Chapter 18. Chapter 19. Sacrifice and Salvation. The storm of battle faded, but the world was not yet at peace. Naruto knelt in the heart of the ruined battlefield, shadows swirling around him, the echoes of Shirbai's cosmic power still pulsing in the air. The monarch's will clawed at his mind, desperate to seize control in the god's wake. Every shadow he'd summoned clamored for purpose, freedom, or destruction. His friends gathered at his side. Sasuke stood over him, battered and bloodied, eyes burning with stubborn resolve. Sakura wept quietly, kneeling beside Naruto and clutching his hand. Kuro sat protectively at Naruto's feet, hackles raised, eyes gleaming blue in the darkness. Naruto's head bowed. It's too much, he thought, vision swimming. If I don't let go, the monarch's power will consume everything. Me, my friends, the world. The system chimed coldly. Critical overload. Shadow monarchs will approaching total assimilation. To protect the world, host must relinquish the crown. Except, Naruto hesitated, fear and guilt warring in his heart. If he gave up the power, would he be enough? If he held on, would he lose himself? Sasuke knelt in front of him, grabbing his shoulder. You're not alone, Naruto. You never have been. We'll carry it with you. Sakura squeezed Naruto's hand, her voice fierce. Let it go. Come back to us. You're more than this power. The Shadow Army waited, silent, sensing their monarch's doubt. Naruto remembered Jinwoo's words. Your heart is your shield. He looked up at the faces around him, his friends, his resurrected mentors, even the villagers watching in awe and fear. He made his choice. Naruto rose shakily to his feet. I accept. I'll give it up, but not just to save the world. I'll do it because I trust you all to help me protect it, with or without the shadows. He spoke aloud, voice echoing through the battlefield. I am Naruto Uzumaki. I am not a monster. I am not a god. I am a friend, and I am home. The monarch's crown flickered above his brow, then dissolved into light. The Shadow Army bowed their heads, then faded gently away, their purpose fulfilled, not as weapons, but as guardians of hope. A new dawn. Naruto collapsed into Sakura and Sasuke's arms, exhausted but finally free. The system's last message glimmered at the edge of his consciousness. Shadow Monarch system terminated. Legacy. Humanity's will to resist the dark. Kuro curled up at Naruto's side. A single loyal shadow that remained, not a servant, but a friend. All around, shinobi and villagers began to cheer, hope sparking amid the ruins. The legendary shadows, Sarutobi, Zabuza, Haku, and others, smiled, their souls released, at peace. Naruto looked up at the sunrise breaking through the clouds. He was scared and tired and utterly human, but he was not alone. He never would be again. A quiet moment. As the world began to rebuild, Naruto found himself surrounded by friends, allies, and even those who once feared him. Sasuke clapped him on the back, offering a rare, genuine smile. "Don't make a habit of saving the world without me, dope." Sakura hugged Naruto tight. "You kept your promise. You came back." Naruto grinned through tears. "Yeah, I'm home." End of chapter 19. Epilogue. Legacy of the Shadow Monarch. Konoha healed beneath a sky brighter than any in memory. Weeks passed. The scars from Shirbai's assault slowly faded, replaced by signs of new life and unity. Villagers and shinobi, leaf, sand, cloud, stone, and mist worked side by side to rebuild what was lost. There were no whispers of monsters now, only quiet awe for the boy who'd stood against a god and chosen humanity over power. Naruto moved through the village no longer shadowed by suspicion, but greeted with smiles and laughter. Children raced after him, imitating his battles with sticks and shouts of Monarch Naruto. Even the old vendors gave him extra dumplings, winking when he protested. But the biggest change was in Naruto himself. The weight of the monarch's crown was gone, replaced by something lighter and stronger, the knowledge that he was truly loved, not for the power he wielded, but for the hope he represented. Kuro still followed at his heels, not as a summoned beast, but as a loyal companion. No one feared the Shadow Wolf. They petted him, brought treats, and laughed as he chased birds through the streets, a farewell and a promise. One quiet morning, Naruto climbed to the Hokage monument, gazing out over his home. Beside him stood Sasuke and Sakura, their bond unbroken by war or darkness. Sasuke glanced at Naruto, a rare smile on his lips. "You did it, you know. You changed the world." Sakura nodded, her voice soft. "You proved you could carry any power and still stay yourself." Naruto shrugged, rubbing the back of his head. "I had help. I always will." As the wind ruffled their hair, Naruto remembered the vision of Sung Jinwoo, the first monarch, whose legacy now felt less like a burden, more like a torch passed on to light the future. The next generation. Below, new teams of Genin trained in the rebuilt arena, watched over by teachers and parents alike. Where once there had been fear, now there was excitement. The story of the Shadow Monarch became a legend, a warning against despair, a song of hope. Naruto's name became more than just the story of a Jinchuriki or a vessel. It became the name of a hero who chose kindness and trust even in the darkness. A letter to the past. That night, as stars sparkled overhead, Naruto sat by his window and wrote a letter, not to anyone living, but to the shadows themselves. "Thank you for trusting me, for reminding me that every darkness can be challenged, and that the strongest power in the world is the will to protect those we love. If there is another world, another lonely kid like me, tell them they're never alone." He set the letter by the window. The wind carried it away, and somewhere, the faintest echo of Sung Jinwoo's spirit smiled. A new era dawns. Konoha awoke to a new day, brighter and braver than any before. And at the heart of it all, Naruto Uzumaki, once alone, once a monster, now a legend, walked forward with his friends at his side, ready for whatever light or shadow the future might bring. And that wraps up today's story, What If Naruto Was Sung Jinwoo's Successor? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did putting it together. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment with your thoughts or your own what if ideas, and of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.